differences in currency value between countries. You see, a bottle of Coke here is about $1.29, but in India it's about 10 rupees. So the current currency exchange rate, 62 rupees to $1, that's a bottle of Coke for about 15 cents. So when I went to India in February 2015, I felt like my wallet had expanded quite a bit during the 18-hour flight to Goa. After a couple of days of binging on the local sweets and buying gifts for my friends, I decided it was about time for me to start spending money on someone other than myself. So I went down to the local store and bought about 25 candies for a total of 50 rupees to give to some small children I'd seen earlier. Now there are about 7 children living with their different families in houses made out of leftover sheets of tin. About 40 people to one bathroom. Can you imagine? I knew I couldn't do much, but I thought just by giving them these candies, it would improve their day for the better. So I went up there with my mom, and as I approached the kids, they all gathered around and smiled at the bag. Then they all lined up one by one, and despite there being 25 candies and 7 kids, they each took one piece, said thank you, and left. I handed the rest of the bag to one of the mothers with a look of amazement on my face. I had the intention of helping these kids, but their act of taking only one piece of candy had left such an impact on me. I mean, in America, we have a whole holiday dedicated to scoring as much candy as you can. And these poor kids, when presented with the whole bag, took only one piece. It was amazing to see how an intention to help others can turn into a lesson you never thought you'd learn. You see, being a member of the human race, I believe that human beings innately want to help others. People love seeing the positive impact they have on others' lives. They don't want to live for themselves or by themselves. They want to interact and improve upon the society they're born into. One way we like to advance society nowadays is by founding startups and sharing those products with the world. I attended this one entrepreneur program back when I was a freshman, and when we got to the point of the program where they taught us how to develop an idea, they didn't say, think of what will get you the most money. They told us to think of how we can improve our customers' lives. Because you see, if a business was started for the purpose of profit rather than started through passion, the momentum would die out the second it started losing money. By telling us to find something that would help others, we would feel responsible for improving someone else's life. Think about the strongest emotions we feel as humans: happiness, anger, sadness, and then think of how the world came together to support Haiti during the 2010 earthquake by sending food and medical aid. We are sympathetic, compassionate, and empathetic. This is what makes us human. Would we feel these emotions if we all lived in our own separate caves? All of these emotions and feelings occur because we are connected with other people, and helping others helps us feel these emotions. There's a problem with the way we help others with the use of the hashtag. For those of you who don't know what a hashtag is or does, it is no longer the pound or number key on a phone, but a marketing tool used by everyday people. In the context of disaster relief, as soon as disaster strikes, people develop something such as hashtag pray for Brussels or hashtag San Diego fire and share it on social media for other people to see and share. It's a simple way to search for things with a common topic. But now, people convince themselves that by sharing a hashtag, they have succeeded in aiding a cause, and then they lower the expectations of what they should do to help others. I mean, why spend an afternoon volunteering at my local food pantry when I can just post a picture on Instagram with the hashtag Feed the Children? We use the hashtag to address many different issues without really focusing on one, and because of this, we lose the emotional benefits of helping others, and we don't get to witness the joy and relief in someone's eyes as they're fed by a total stranger. So when did this start, and when did we begin devaluing help? We can begin at the first common point of growing up, school. As children in elementary school, we are taught to love learning new things, and if you've ever stepped into a kindergarten classroom, you can see the joy of learning in every child's eyes. Then in middle school, we are taught to be efficient at learning. We develop good study habits to prepare us for the big leagues, high school. Then we do have some sort of excitement towards learning, but we understand there's a lot of responsibility to it. Then in high school, we are taught to be the best at learning. It's about being valedictorian, varsity player, piano prodigy, founder of a successful charity, all packaged up inside a happy, healthy body. While this seems a little exaggerated, this is what most students my age think is necessary to get into any college. And the problem with all this is not only do they lose their love of learning, they lose sight of the value of helping others. As I was placed into an academically competitive environment, I thought to myself, why would I help the kid who excels in every single class except the one I do? I mean, I get to see them fail at something, and boy, isn't that enjoyable to watch? They could be taking my spot in an Ivy League, and I'd be helping them do it. I didn't worry though, because I'd still help kids in other grades in their classes that they're struggling in. I thought that at least I'm helping somebody out there, so there's no need to help my own peers. That's easy logic to follow, right? The reality is that this competition in high school made helping fellow students not only seem like a waste of my own time, but possibly detrimental to the success of my college application. And if I'm thinking this, how many others out there are too? Think of the future work environment that's going to develop from this. Everyone not only looks out for themselves, not for the success of their company, but for the growth of their bonuses and achievements on the LinkedIn page. I used to think that, oh no, as soon as I graduate high school, I'm going to help everyone around me, but the world isn't in distinct stages. As I progressed from middle school to high school, I realized that I couldn't go into the next phase of life with a completely blank mindset. I go into them with the habits and mindsets of the previous one, and if I wasn't helping out kids now, when was I going to help them out? People are losing sight of the rewards of helping others because they're only seeing themselves, and I believe this is making us less human. When we lose the desire to help others, we lose part of our humanity. I take a European history course in school right now, and in it we learned about the industrialization era that occurred in Great Britain during the 19th century. While we were learning it, one topic kept bothering me: government intervention to help the disenfranchised. This included those who weren't paid enough to support their families or who were unemployed. At first I thought, oh, these people are poor, so the government's going to help them out, right? After all, governments spent and still do spend so much money on helping other nations, so surely they'll help their own people. But many economists at the time believed that by providing money and aid to the poverty-stricken, it would make them lazier and discourage people to work and make a living for themselves. But as horrible as it sounds, it still continues today. Think about how we treat the homeless. I do understand there are instances where monetary aid is misused to finance addictions, but unless we sit down and talk to them or witness the back alley transactions ourselves, we'll never really know. No matter what they've done or continue to do, no one deserves to be homeless or hungry. The problem is that society tends to ignore human in need. This all started from the competitive spirit we familiarized ourselves with in high school. What used to be, I can spend this hour scrolling through Instagram or tutoring someone in math, turned into, I can either spend $10 on myself or give it to the homeless man I see over there. You see how unrealistic that is? Because there's an obsession with being successful. From a young age, success is marketed to us as having whatever you want and doing whatever you want. And as children, we're not supposed to have that, because that promotes bad character and a selfish nature. So how does being an adult with a big wallet differ from that, really? As a high school student, I tend to focus on the immediate events in my future, like my next test, project, prom, and tend to forget that school is but a portion of my life. While it may influence my future, what is good is being miserable and stressed for the first 20 years of my life. By doing so, I developed a habit of stressing out and focusing in on myself and losing enthusiasm towards work. I had turned into a very petty person who would get worked up at every event that went wrong because I failed to look at the big picture. Those little children I'd given candy to, the oldest couldn't have been more than 7 years old. They were so happy that I gave them candy because they appreciated every little thing they have in life. They had nothing, yet they still looked at the world like it meant everything to them. And here I am, sweating on my grades and complaining about the number of followers I have on Instagram. My parents and I immigrated to America when I was very small with my older sister. And being first-generation immigrants, my parents pushed us very hard in school so we can make the long plane ride and the U.S. citizenship process worth it. As you can imagine, school became our #1 priority. Once I entered middle school and got a real grading system of A, B, C, D, and hopefully not Fs, I became aware of a whole new world of failure. Once 8th grade rolled around, every grade below a 90 took a hard hit to my self-esteem. Then in high school, this continued where I would have a streak of good grades, then an 83 would knock down my confidence for a while. I began to close in on myself and saw academic success as my sole purpose in life. After a while, I realized it's not my fault I was upset over every grade, but the fault of the rigid mentality we are all born into in regards to education. Being the best was not worth the emotional anguish from getting an 82. I used to think that studying all the time and putting off going outside and spending time with my friends was worth getting all A's in every single class. But I recently thought, is this how I want to remember high school? Just staying indoors on a beautiful day, cramming to improve my English grade? I do not condemn wanting to get good grades by using your intellectual talents, but I do not condone wasting away alongside a stack of textbooks. I could die tomorrow for all I know. What's better than getting all A's is knowing you made a difference amongst your circle of people. Colleges may still reject you despite your 2400 SAT score and 5.0 GPA. The people you live with won't if you treat them well. I realized I wasn't born to go to school and get all A's, but I was born to improve the society around me. Life isn't about A's. It's about using my natural gifts to help others. And if I let grades diminish my confidence and enthusiasm towards learning and living, then that's when I truly fail. So instead of focusing on my grades or being successful, what if I focused on building my character and truly enjoying life? The definition of success has changed throughout history, from having the biggest piles of gold to the largest number of followers on Instagram. It has always changed and will always continue to change. Because if the world was created for all of us to be rich and famous, then we would be. So funnily enough, none of us would be considered rich and famous. What has stayed constant throughout time is the emotional reward we gain from helping others. The happiest people are the ones who focus on helping others and striving to live their life to the fullest, not by living in the confines of making it to the top. Think about how you feel after you participate in a relay for life or helping out at a service trip to an impoverished part of the world. Doesn't that feeling that you helped others for the sake of helping them feel way better than a shopping spree or straight A's? It's because you've helped others with good intentions, and once you've finished, you don't think about what you've done wrong, but what you've done that's right. Think of a school where we celebrate the collaborative success of students rather than their academic individual achievements. I respect the American education system because there are places in the world where education isn't that great, but I do believe it's time for it to change. By trying to accommodate an entire nation, curriculum is focused on the statistical average of the group. And because of this, some excel without much effort, and some fail despite nights of hard work. This is at no fault of teachers, however, as they are not responsible for drilling information into students' brains, but they are there to inspire and aid kids along their academic journeys. They try their hardest, but with the curriculum to cover, the short amount of time, national exams, and large classes, there has to be a level of standardization in education if the purpose is to teach information. But I still believe that a collaborative environment, however, where we are graded on honest effort and passion, would be more fruitful than a system of fill-in-the-blank and multiple choice questions. It will better prepare young adults for the collaborative environment they're going to enter when they get older, because their goal is to do their job well, not for the sake of their paycheck, but for the sake of their team, their company, and most importantly, their customers. What good is a workforce of people who are unhappy? People who work to get the job done and over with so they can robotically move on to the next task. Those who work in collaborative environments, such as Google, Microsoft, and Boeing, reported a greater connection amongst workers, increased problem-solving abilities, a higher sense of urgency to work, and an overall greater work satisfaction. They're happier to go to work every day because they are valued for their skill set, not evaluated based on their place in the work hierarchy. If we evaluated cooperation as much as highlighting and improving the talents of each individual person, we can create a more positive, productive society. Think about how peaceful the world would be without the fight for domination. The fact that this idea may seem so foreign to many of you just proves how rigid of a mindset we all have towards success and, well, life. But I'd like you all to try and think of how nice it would be not to live such a high-strung life. Think about a life where people help each other, and where you live your life, the way you live your life is more influenced by the way you think than the way you act. You see, I'm one of 5 children, and at the moment we attend 4 different schools and that start and end at different times. So as you can imagine, morning's going to be a very fun but hectic time. As you can probably guess, I'm usually not on time for school every day. And being an internally prompt person myself, it killed me every time I walked into homeroom at 7:56, 1 minute off but a tardy nonetheless. In the mornings, I was a terrible person and in constant stress over getting to school on time because I did not want to get a detention every single week for being late by 1 minute. After not months but years of this, I knew I had to change something. And since I couldn't make my siblings go to the same school, I knew the change had to happen within. So, I just stopped caring about detentions. I stopped placing value on the hour-long punishment because it just wasn't worth stressing over. While I did receive an hour detention a couple of weeks ago, I was so much more at peace with myself and a much nicer person in the morning. Now you may be thinking that A, that defeats the whole purpose of the punishment system, and B, that sounds crazy. In the moment, it feels way better to change your perspective towards these things, and in the long run, you're able to rid yourself of the habit of sensationalizing penalties and anything else that opposes you. That being said, it's a huge risk to change your mental image of success to what I'm presenting to you now, because many of the people around you may not adapt the same mentality as you. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the happier, more fulfilled one, because the goal you strive to achieve is achieved every day when you help others and enjoy what's around you. If we could see the Peace Corps as an institution as successful and fulfilling as a high-level executive position, then we are on the right track towards more enriching lives. You kindle the value in human relations And that's great because we're all human beings. If we all started viewing success as the improvement of others equally to the improvement of ourselves, we can start a wildfire that values human beings for what they are rather than what they give to us. In order to understand this, you really have to experience it yourself. You can be told the same thing 1 million times, but unless you experience it, you're not going to understand it, and that's a plain old truth. I love learning the Spanish language, so what I used to do was try to translate my thoughts into Spanish, my English thoughts into the Spanish language. And it really helped me learn the language. After being introduced to different government styles and ideologies in history in my metaphysics class, I've been doing a similar thing with my thoughts. Instead of translating it to Spanish, I try to understand how I got to this type of thinking, why I'm thinking like this, and why others aren't doing the same thing. It really opens your mindset to see how the rest of the world is thinking about things. And I didn't just give this presentation to justify slacking off in school, but to present another way of life. One where you appreciate others and want to see them succeed just as much as you do. One where we wake up every day ready for an adventure, not one where we dread doing the monotonous tasks that lie ahead of us. One where we don't lose hope at every failure, and one where we can appreciate life and see it as a chance to improve the society we are born into. And I hope that through helping others and refocusing the way you see success, you can take one piece of candy and be overjoyed. Thank you.